Silicon Valley Nonprofits, a service of KMVT Community Media. I'm Bev Lenahan, your host. Today our guests are Kleinerman and Eman Isadiar from the El Camino Youth Symphony. Well, we have many opportunities here in Silicon Valley for youth to have musical experiences. We're very fortunate in that way. But I know there's some differences about the way you go about what you do for the Youth Symphony. So I would love for you to share what some of those differences are. What makes you unique?
Okay, want to go?
Well, speaking as a music educator, I can tell you that first and foremost, we want our students to grow into young musicians, not necessarily professionals, but we go about our training program and the design of the programs and the 7 levels of ensembles that we have to ensure that our students feel like they're growing musically and growing as musicians within themselves. So we have very talented faculty. Our winds coach graduated from Peabody.
Very nice.
We have one of our conductors who was studied at the Royal Academy in London. And they're focused and yet very supportive teachers. So the students are taught with rigorous training, but they have fun.
So it's more, it's not just about learning how to play an instrument. It's far deeper than that. Share a little bit more about this rigor.
Really, the focus is about helping the students form a lifelong relationship with music, to make sure that music is a part of their lives forever. It's not just to get through a concert or to put on a performance or to win a competition or whatever the case may be, is to make sure that these young musicians really have a lifelong relationship with music. So that's really the main focus, is that this is kind of a long-term process. It's not this school year or this semester. Everyone has this kind of long-term approach.
But lifelong learning. Really.
Exactly. But one of the things that I'm most proud of, which is truly unique about El Camino Youth Symphony, is that when it comes to our concerts, we spare no expense in making sure that these musicians have the best concert experience possible. So what that means is that we rent professional grade concert halls, such as the Flint Center in Cupertino, or the San Jose Landmark Theater, California Theater. And in fact, our most advanced orchestra is performing at the Davies Hall in San Francisco in January. So we're very proud of this unique experience. Yes, we could go to a community center or perform in a church or something like that, but it's become, over the years, over the 50 odd years that we've existed, it's become part and parcel of our identity that the concert experience is really one of the distinguishing factors. Yeah.
Sort of aspirational, isn't it? To have that young person believe that someday I might be here often.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, and I often say to people, our offices are bare bones, and we like it that way because we want to put, and we do put, most of our funds into the program, which includes the education and rehearsal venues, and as Eman talked about, the performance venues as well.
Sounds as it should be.
Yes.
When we think about how the best nonprofits are run. Put it into the program as much as possible. Well, describe a little more fully the services that you offer for young people and their families.
Well, we have 7 levels of ensembles. And our students range in age from kindergarten, so 5 years old, through 18. Actually, this year we have a 19-year-old in our top level ensemble. She has been with us for many years, and she just didn't want to go away to college this year. So she has 2 sisters also in the same level symphony. And so we have students who have stayed with us from the time they were in kindergarten all the way through senior high school. And what we do is we have a conductor / teacher for each level.
And each of the 7 levels?
Each of the 7 levels. And so the students start in chamber. No, they start in camerata.
No, chamber players.
Chamber players. I can't remember all of this. They start in chamber players, then they move on to something called camerata. And then we split them as they mature, and we want them to focus on their certain type of instruments. So then we have a string ensemble, and then a wind and brass ensemble, and then they come together in the second tier orchestra, which is Sinfonietta, and then senior symphony. So they're growing, learning musically. They're growing
along the way.
All along the way.
Performing.
Yes, and they're learning to work with each other in this atmosphere, follow a conductor, learning all the musical terms. And again, they gradually, as the years pass and they stay in the ensembles, they gradually turn into young musicians.
Yes, that can be older musicians, and they're well primed to be able to do that. One of the things that I was impressed about in reading about your program is sort of the discipline of it all, and how they learn the social skills too of respecting one another, encouraging one another, all of the things that we would hope they're also learning in school. That's very much a part of your program, isn't it, that distinguishes it?
Yeah, definitely. The part of character development, being collaborative, knowing that you're part of a group process, and also, welcoming new challenges, and most importantly, being able to follow instructions. That's a skill that is always useful, when the conductor wants to get a certain effect, he will have the musicians try various techniques until he gets just the right nuance and the right sound. And so these musicians learn to really follow those instructions very carefully. But another part of our program that Kay didn't mention was the Endangered Instruments program as part of it. And this is, again, something that's very unique to El Camino Youth Symphony. We know that everyone wants to play the violin and the piano. So you end up having, or the cello for that matter, you end up having a lot of...
That's what my daughters did.
Right. A lot of children who want to study those instruments. There are some instruments that are often neglected that are really crucial in a symphony orchestra setting.
Like the oboe, maybe?
The oboe, the French horn, and the viola, for example. Very few people actually want to learn the viola, and double bass. So those are instruments that are always needed to be able to play full symphonic works by Beethoven and others. And so we have a free program. It's where we provide the instruments, we provide the training to violinists who want to also learn to play the viola. So, a lot of that skill can be transferred. Of course, the clef is different, so they would have to learn how to read a new clef. But on the technical side, much of that is the same. And also, we've noticed that children who play the piano, for example, have an easier time with the double bass. I don't know exactly why or how that works, but we do have a program, for, because otherwise there is really not much need for a piano. There's a keyboard in a symphony orchestra, but unless you have a piano concerto and a soloist. So there are a lot of piano students who don't get that experience of playing in an ensemble, and I was one of them myself, growing up as a pianist. So for them to be able to play the double bass and get the experience of being in a symphony orchestra, I think is valuable.
It's also a way, because it's a free or depending on the student, highly subsidized program, it's also a way for us to reach out to the communities in need for students who want to be able to learn an instrument, but who might not have the financial wherewithal. So they come, again, we loan them the instrument, and so they have it for the duration of their time in the Endangered Instruments program. It's also a way for them to be able to then, after they spend a year in the program, step into an ECYS ensemble. And so they're welcomed into the family.
Well, that means that the instructors have to be very astute at observing how a student picks up certain things and how they might be candidates for this endangered program.
Yes.
I love that
Exactly.
name.
Yeah.
I think that's terrific. Yes, because you want to be able to fully fuel the orchestras of tomorrow, and this is a way to help that to happen.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to also ask, you probably can think of a student or two that you've really seen their lives change because of this environment that you provide. Can you share one or two of those stories? We'd really like to hear them.
Well, yes.
Your eyes lit up.
We have had some students who have been, of course, with us for a long time. And as we see them grow and mature in their musicianship and in their friendships with their fellow musicians, we also see them start to understand the world in a different way because of the music that they're experiencing. And once they start to perform, and they have the sense of satisfaction with performing. And then when they're old enough, if they graduate to senior symphony, they go on, we have a biannual European tour. Or it's not just
It's not necessarily European, but it ends up being most frequently European.
Right. And so this past summer, they were in Vienna and
Prague and Budapest.
Budapest, right.
Oh, what an
And
experience.
Bratislava.
Oh,
And so they were performing in the concert halls that Beethoven played in, that Mozart played in.
what a thrill.
And so they spend 3 weeks, and they tour like professional musicians tour. As Eman has said, they lack sleep sometimes, or they stay up too late.
But that's the fun of it all.
That's true. But they have this experience that not many students have, and they're doing it together. So again, they're bonding, and they have these wonderful experiences with the European audiences who absolutely adore hearing them play.
I'm sure.
And they come back changed. They
Well,
come
when you
back,
travel together like that, and you have this combination of discipline and yet fun, you realize you can have a life that includes both. And I think they realize too that they're respected. They experience respect in a different way that is motivating too.
it's also a way for them to start to get a sense of themselves as world citizens,
Yes.
or part of something larger.
Yes, which will be their work world.
Yes.
And their travel world. So,
And that the world responds to music in the same manner, no matter where you perform and what culture you're in or you're originally from. And one of the advantages of El Camino Youth Symphony in this process is that we've been around for a very long time.
55 years.
Yeah, 55 years.
that
So
speaks volumes.
so we now have a whole population of baby boomers who went through our program, in its earlier days, and who can now tell us how life-changing it was for them, and that it was an experience that stayed with them through their lives. And,
Wonderful. Well, in our brief time left, tell how the community can continue to support your efforts, because we know this ongoing support makes a difference. Share with us.
We talked about this morning, and what we decided was that it's not just us we want our community to support. It's the cause and the purpose and the joy of music education. Every child,
Wherever it is.
every child should have music education, because the learning opportunities and the development of a young mind. I could talk about this for an hour, but I won't.
Well, we need to wrap up.
Yeah.
Yes, so I would say support music education.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Well, we'll have your website available for people, and continued success in the work you're doing. It's invaluable for our young people. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.